to make the loss of these lives matter. My wife and I, Camilla, we spent most of last week on the ground with the families in Uvalde, Texas. We shared stories, tears, and memories. The common thread, independent of the anger and the confusion and the sadness, it was the same. How can these families continue to honor these deaths by keeping the dreams of these children and teachers alive? Again, how can the loss of these lives matter? While we honor and acknowledge the victims, we need to recognize that this time, it seems that something is different. There is a sense that perhaps there's a viable path forward. Responsible parties in this debate seem to at least be committed to sitting down and having a real conversation about a new and improved path forward. A path that can bring us closer together and make us safer as a country, a path that can actually get something done this time. Camilla and I came here to share my stories from my hometown of Uvalde. Came here to take meetings with elected officials on both sides of the aisle. We came here to speak to them, to speak with them, and to urge them to speak with each other, to remind and inspire them that the American people will continue to drive forward the mission of keeping our children safe, because it's more than our right to do so. It's our responsibility to do so.
Hi, everyone. I am doing the Hey Stella episode. And as everything that happens from week to week, I found this speech of the actor, the amazing actor, Matthew McConaughey, at the White House, talking about the killing, the shooting, yet another shooting of children and teachers in Texas. As he came on television, I wasn't sure what an actor would be doing at the White House, and there's a lot of people who sometimes are in disagreement about actors being activists. But I think quite the opposite. I think that the actors, especially the great ones who understand all of the emotions to a degree of other people, because they have to play other people in other situations in their careers. I think that they should be activists. I think that they should speak against bad and for the good. And I just wanted to focus on watching it with you and share it with you, to see the moving tribute, him and his wife, who went to Texas, where he's from, and spent time with the families of these children who were just having another day at school, and a shooter came in and massacred them, murdered them. So for those people out there who say that actors should stay in their line, on their platform, and leave the activism to others, I think that there's no better time than to take up, to stand for action. Action not only in a movie, on a script, on stage, but in what's happening day to day, because the politicians don't seem to be doing anything. So then others, like the professionals of acting, are doing it. And they're at least trying to heal, trying to tell the stories of those innocent lives of children, hoping that through their story, things will change and such shootings of innocent lives would not happen. So this is very difficult to watch.
I'm here today in the hopes of applying what energy, reason, and passion that I have into trying to turn this moment into a reality. Because as I said, this moment is different. We are in a window of opportunity right now that we have not been in before. A window where it seems like real change can happen. Uvalde, Texas is where I was born. It's where my mom taught kindergarten less than a mile from Robb Elementary. Uvalde is where I learned to master a Daisy BB gun. That took 2 years before I graduated to a .410 shotgun. Uvalde is where I was taught to revere the power and the capability of the tool that we call a gun. Uvalde is where I learned responsible gun ownership. And Uvalde called me on May 24th when I learned the news of this devastating tragedy. I had been out of cellular range, working in the studio all day when I emerged, and messages about a mass shooting in the town I was born in began flooding my inbox. In a bit of shock, I drove home, hugged my children a bit tighter and longer than the night before. And then the reality of what had happened that day in the town I was born in set in. So the next morning, Camilla, myself, the kids, we loaded up the truck and we drove to Uvalde. When we arrived a few hours later, I got to tell you, even from the inside of our vehicle, you could feel the shock in the town. You could feel the pain, the denial, the disillusion, anger, blame, sadness, loss of lives, dreams halted. We saw ministries, we saw first responders, counselors, cooks, families trying to grieve without it being on the front page news. We met with the local funeral director and countless morticians who hadn't slept since the massacre the day before, because they've been working 24/7 trying to handle so many bodies at once, so many little innocent bodies who had their entire lives still yet to live. Now it is there that we met two of the grieving parents, Ryan and Jessica Ramirez. Their 10-year-old daughter, Alethea. She was one of the 19 children that were killed the day before. Now, Alethea, her dream was to go to art school in Paris and one day share her art with the world. Ryan and Jessica were eager to share Alethea's art with us and said if we could share it, that somehow, maybe that would make Alethea smile in heaven. They told us that showing someone else Alethea's art would in some way keep her alive. And this particular drawing is a self-portrait, all right, of Alethea drawing with her friend in heaven looking down on her, drawing the very same picture. Her mother said of this drawing, she said, you know, we never really talked to her about heaven before, but somehow she knew. Alethea was 10 years old. Her father, Ryan.
I just think that no matter what kind of politician you are, and no matter how long you've been in office, no matter how much public speaking you have had, you can never tell the story of this little girl in particular with the details and the emotional toll that he, the actor, Matthew McConaughey, is already feeling as he's sharing the story. The empathy that an actor has to feel is such an organic part of who he is as a human being. So Matthew McConaughey is doing the best that he can with this tragedy. He can never take the pain away from the parents. He can never bring those beautiful, innocent children back. Or the two teachers, I believe there were two teachers who were gunned down. But in the way that he tells the story, he's conveying to all of us details in such a specific way. And because he feels that pain in doing so, all of us watching are being able to connect and to understand those parents of those beautiful children that we don't even know.
He was uncommonly together and calm. When a frazzled friend of his came up and said, "How are you so calm? I'd be going crazy." Ryan told him, he said, "No, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. You'd be strong for your wife and kids, because if they see you go crazy, that will not help them." Just a week prior, Ryan got a full-time line job, stringing power lines from pole to pole. And every day since landing that well-paying full-time job, he reminded his daughter Alethea, he said, "Girl, Daddy gonna spoil you now." Told her every single night. He said, "Daddy's gonna take you to SeaWorld one day."
He's reliving the story from the father whose child was gunned down. He's reliving the story of the father by taking on himself, a father of children, and experiencing the closest that he can, because he can never experience the full pain and anguish, but he's experiencing it. The profession of acting is what it should be. It should help people in tragedies, help people when there's joy. The hope with which he just described, this father's hopes for his daughter before this horrible tragedy, is unbearable to watch, because there was a smile on his face. He went back to what it was like when this daughter was still alive. And he lived it. He lived that moment. He went back and lived it. So when actors are telling a story, they're not just saying words. The words are not important. The words are the tools that come last when everything else is bursting out of you. Every other feeling is bursting out of you. In this case, because of this horrible tragedy. That's when the words come out. That's where they come out of.
Alethea, she did not get to go to SeaWorld. We also met Anna and Danila, the mom and the stepdad of 9-year-old Maite Rodriguez. And Maite wanted to be a marine biologist. She was already in contact with Corpus Christi University of A&M for her future college enrollment. 9 years old. Maite cared for the environment so strongly that when the city asked her mother if they could release some balloons into the sky, in her memory, her mom said, "Oh, no, Maite wouldn't want to litter." Maite wore green high-top Converse with a heart she had hand-drawn on the right toe because they represented her love of nature. Camilla's got these shoes. Can you show these shoes, please? Wore these every day. Green Converse with a heart on the right toe. These are the same green Converse on her feet that turned out to be the only clear evidence that could identify her at the shooting. How about that? Maite wrote a letter. Her mom said if Maite's letter could help someone accomplish her dream, that then her death would have an impact. And it would mean her dying had a point and wasn't pointless. That it would make the loss of her life matter. The letter reads, "Marine biologist, I want to pass school to get to my dream college. My dream college is in Corpus Christi by the ocean. I need to live next to the ocean because I want to be a marine biologist. Marine biologists study animals and the water. Most of the time I will be in a lab. Sometimes I will be on TV." Then there was Ellie Garcia, a 10-year-old, and her parents, Stephen and Jennifer. Ellie loved to dance and she loved church. She even knew how to drive tractors and was already working with her dad and her uncle mowing yards. Ellie was always giving of her gifts, her time, even half-eaten food on her plate. They said around the house, we called her the great regifter. Smiling through tears, her family told us how Ellie loved to embrace, said she was the biggest hugger in the family. Now, Ellie was born Catholic, but had been going to Baptist church with her uncle for the last couple of years. Her mom and dad were proud of her because they said she was learning to love God no matter where. The week prior to her passing, she'd been preparing to read a verse from the Bible for the next Wednesday night's church service. The verse was from Deuteronomy 6:5. And thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and with all thy might. That's who Ellie was becoming. But she never got to read it. Service on that Wednesday night. Then there was a fairy tale love story of a teacher named Irma and her husband Joe. What a great family this was. This was an amazing family. Camilla and I, we sat with about 20 of their family members in the living room, along with their 4 kids. Kids were 23, 19, 15, and 13. They shared all these stories about how Irma and Joe served the community and would host all these parties, and how Irma and Joe were planning on getting a food truck together when they soon retired. They were humble, hard-working people. Irma was a teacher who her family said went above and beyond and just couldn't say no to any kind of teaching. Joe had been commuting to and from work 70 miles away in Del Rio for years. Together, they were the glue of the family. Both worked overtime to support their 4 kids. Irma even worked every summer when school was out. The money she had made 2 summers ago paid to paint the front of the house. The money she made last summer paid to paint the sides of the house. This summer's work was going to pay to paint the back of the house. Because Irma was one of the teachers who was gunned down in the classroom. Joe, her husband, literally died of heartache the very next day when he had a heart attack. They never got to paint the back of their house.
I think this part is so relatable to me because I am a teacher. And I think what Matthew is doing, which is so extraordinary, to reveal the lives of these people, he's being so specific in the way that he describes who they were and their love for their work and their having to make money and then wait to not have sufficient at one time, because we all know as teachers don't make a lot of money, but they were painting half of the house with 1 year salary. Then they waited to pay the second wall of the house. The specificity with which he describes their lives that mattered so much is so beautifully shared and so much deserved by those who are no longer here due to the fact that politicians haven't done anything about gun control. This is not the first shooting. This is not the second shooting in America. This is not the third. I don't even know. I can't even count. But they haven't done anything about it because their politics and their power, their individual power as politicians is more important than these shootings happening because they want to be reelected. So they're playing to their base to those people who love their guns and there are no changes being done. So Matthew McConaughey is relating a story in a way that is so moving. I mean, I don't know how you guys are taking it, but it's so moving because he's living and he's expressing not only sadness, which is the one emotion that anybody would feel when witnessing what we witnessed with this tragedy, as he so well calls it. He's not giving up the hope in the way that he describes it. He's not giving up the joy that this couple, while doing what they love to do, no matter that the money was not sufficient, they love to do it. So when he expresses their love for what they did, his hope is so visible and so well and deeply felt. So as actors, you don't play just one feeling, which would be anguish or sadness, two feelings. You play moment to moment because you are responsible to put all of who you are and all of what you have in your humanity to raise up as a storyteller and do justice in the way that you tell the stories of people. So when I see actors who are not doing the work, when I see actors that are not taking their profession to be their responsibility of telling the stories of people in a way that it's merited, not by doing a stupid general acting and gestures that have no place of where they come from, because you don't want to share your humanity as an actor. If you don't want to share your humanity and do the training and the work that it's requiring of you to be able to then come and do what Matthew McConaughey is doing with the hope of change, but most importantly, the objective of telling the story as it deserves to be told of those people and how their families who have to mourn, whose lives have changed forever. That's how important the profession of actors is. So if you don't want to put your soul and being into it, you don't deserve to be an actor.
And they never got to get that food truck together. We also met a cosmetologist. She was well-versed in mortuary makeup. That's the task of making the victims appear as peaceful and natural as possible for their open casket viewings. These bodies were very different. They needed much more than makeup to be presentable. They needed extensive restoration. Why? Due to the exceptionally large exit wounds of an AR-15 rifle. Most of the body is so mutilated that only DNA test or green Converse could identify them. Many children were left not only dead, but hollow. So yes, counselors are going to be needed in Uvalde for a long time. Counselors are needed in all these places where these mass shooters have been for a long time. I was told by many that it takes a good year before people even understand what to do next. And even then, when they become secure enough to take the first step forward, a lifetime is not going to heal those wounds. But again, you know what every one of these parents wanted, what they asked us for? But every parent separately expressed in their own way to Camilla and me, that they want their children's dreams to live on. That they want their children's dreams to continue to accomplish something after they are gone. They want to make their loss of life matter. But we heard from so many people, right? Families of the deceased, mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, Texas Rangers, hunters, Border Patrol, and responsible gun owners who won't give up their Second Amendment right to bear arms. And you know what they all said? We want secure and safe schools, and we want gun laws that won't make it so easy for the bad guys to get these damn guns. So, we know it's on the table. We need to invest in mental health care. We need safer schools. We need to restrain sensationalized media coverage. We need to restore our family values. We need to restore our American values. And we need responsible gun ownership. Responsible gun ownership. We need background checks. We need to raise the minimum age to purchase an AR-15 rifle to 21. We need a waiting period for those rifles. We need red flag laws and consequences for those who abuse them. These are reasonable, practical, tactical regulations to our nation, states, communities, schools, and homes. Responsible gun owners are fed up with the Second Amendment being abused and hijacked by some deranged individuals. These regulations are not a step back. They're a step forward for a civil society and the Second Amendment. Look, is this cure-all? Hell no. But people are hurting. Families are, parents are. And look, as divided as our country is, this gun responsibility issue is one that we agree on more than we don't. It really is. Look, this should be a nonpartisan issue. This should not be a partisan issue. There is not a Democratic or Republican value in one single act of these shooters. It's not. But people in power have failed to act. So we're asking you, and I'm asking you, will you please ask yourselves, can both sides rise above? Can both sides see beyond the political problem at hand and admit that we have a life preservation problem on our hands? So we got a chance right now to reach for and to grasp a higher ground above our political affiliations. A chance to make a choice that does more than protect your party. A chance to make a choice that protects our country now and for the next generation. We've got to take a sober, humble, and honest look in the mirror and rebrand ourselves based on what we truly value. What we truly value. We got to get some real courage and honor our immortal obligations instead of our party affiliations. Enough with the counterpunching. Enough of the invalidation of the other side. Let's come to the common table that represents the American people. Find a middle ground, a place where most of us Americans live anyway, especially on this issue. Because I promise you, America, you and me, we are not as divided as we are being told we are. No. How about we get inspired? Give ourselves just cause to revere our future again.
Inspired.
Maybe set an example for our children. Give us reason to tell them, hey, listen and watch these men and women. These are great American leaders right here. Hope you grow up to be like them. And let's admit it. We can't truly be leaders if we're only living for re-election.
That's what I was saying.
Let's be knowledgeable and wise.
That's exactly what I was saying. When they're talking about the division between the Republicans and the Democrats and the parties and this party, this is all over the world. They're telling us that we are more divided than we actually are because they're just concerned about their political rise. They're addicted. The politicians are addicted to individual power. That's addictive because they feel empty inside. They feel like they're not worthy. So they have to have power. They do not care to speak the truth. And when Matthew McConaughey talks and he uses his hands and he gestures in such a way that, oh, when I hear some directors or some actors say, you can't really be big when you're acting, because if you're big, then you're over the top. And I tell people, stop saying that. You're over the top only when that over the top gesture is not being sustained by truth. He is sustained in the truth of what he's talking about. So there's no over the top. And the reason that he talks about being inspired and being in reverence of those people who are no longer with us, those little children, those teachers, he's talking about all of us to be kind to each other. It's not just about the tragedy. This is the most important, of course, is the tragedy, but it's another lesson in kindness between us as humans. Because no matter who we are or where we come from, we are humans. Our human story connects us. And we need to be reminded by people like Matthew McConaughey. And I'm so glad that he is the one that's actually on that podium at the White House. And it's not just politicians who barely know how to say anything because they don't have their truth underneath what they're saying, because their wants and their objectives are individual gains. That's why I wanted to show this, because this has to do with our coming together everywhere, not just as actors, but the actors are there to remind us in a way that he's doing, to look, to self-reflect, and to think what we want to be and who we want to be. This life is so short for all of us. We're not here forever. But natural circumstances are easier to take because that's the way that life works. Children are not supposed to be buried by their parents because of the laws that allow a teenager, I don't know exactly how old he was, to go and shoot at them, gun them down, hunt them in a school. So yes, actors are more important. And I just wish that people would realize that. And those who are great actors are also great humans, because you can't put a facade of being a great actor. A facade, you can just crack it. It doesn't last. It gets cracked down. So you're a great actor has to be sustained in great humanity.
Act on what we truly believe. Again, we got to look in the mirror, lead with humility, and acknowledge the values that are inherent to, but also above politics. We got to make choices, make stands, embrace new ideas, and preserve the traditions that can create true progress for the next generation. With real leadership, let's start giving us, all of us, with real leadership, let's start giving all of us good reason to believe that the American dream is not an illusion. So where do we start? We start by making the right choices on the issue that is in front of us today. We start by making laws that save innocent lives and don't infringe on our Second Amendment rights. We start right now by voting to pass policies that can keep us from having as many Columbine, Sandy Hooks, Parklands, Las Vegases, Buffaloes, and Uvaldes from here on. We start by giving Alethea a chance to be spoiled by her dad. We start by giving Mayte a chance to become a marine biologist. Start by giving Ellie a chance to read her Bible verse at the Wednesday night service. Start by giving Irma and Joe a chance to finish painting their house. Maybe retire, get that food truck. We start by giving McKenna, Layla, Miranda, Nevaeh, Jose, Javier, Tess, Rogelio, Eliana, Annabelle, Jackie, Azuya, JC, Jayla, Ava, Amory, and Lexi Start by giving all of them our promise that their dreams are not going to be forgotten. We start by making the loss of these lives matter.
I think why this moved me so much, first of all, because it's a tragedy, and any tragedy, especially of children and of course the adults too, but to see that this is happening over and over again without anything being done for so many years, I don't think I would have been as understanding of the specific and the individual losses. I would have still understood it, but I don't think I would have been so specific in understanding the losses if Matthew McConaughey would not have been the one to pay so much, just so much reverence in the way that he was telling the story. And the other element that he never went to, which politicians seem to do all the time, he never went to put the blame on someone. He never went to say, you did wrong, you did wrong. He never went to be negative in the way that he was re-experiencing all of these stories that he and his wife had heard from the families of these children and the relatives of the teachers. There's this hope that he had from the beginning to the end. There's a hope, because if you as an actor, but if we also as people give up hope in everyday life, in our dreams and what we want to do, then there's nothing there to fight for, and there's nothing there that you can do to inspire other people. When an actor comes out and he's completely the opposite of what Matthew McConaughey is, who, by the way, had an amazing career for so many years. He was a romantic comedy player. He had roles all the time. He was making the money. He was becoming famous. He was doing so much that he could have said to himself, my life is going really well, I get all these jobs. But there came a point in his life where he understood that he needed to go to a different place within himself. There was a different level of acting that he wanted to do. He wanted to understand acting in himself in a deeper way. So he stopped acting in those comedies. He wanted to take time away from it, because he wanted to go and train with an acting coach. He wanted to learn more, because he knew that his responsibility to the people, to the audiences, to the viewers, was not to just show a part of yourself that's easy, to keep showing that just because you're making money off of it. As an actor, as a great actor, he knew that the responsibility that he had was for him to go and learn more of what he was feeling, who he was as a person, his inspirations. What does the message that he wants to give out in the coming roles? How is that going to influence people? How is that going to influence the world in the different roles? He wanted to be able to be of service to others in a way that great actors are and should be. Going back to the one Stanislavski Konstantin, he was the one that said it. The art is in you when you are a great actor. It's not about you in the art. That's the ego. The you in the art is when you forget the responsibility that you have as an actor. And to watch Matthew McConaughey pay tribute in such a humble and modest way, holding back the tears throughout the whole tribute. He could have from the beginning, because he was already feeling the pain. When he started to speak, he could have just started to cry. But if he started to cry at that moment, he knew that he was making it about himself in the art. And that's not what great acting is. He knew that it's not about his tears. If you cry as an actor to show that you can cry, it's about you performing and showing to people how great you are, that you can cry on cue. If you get to the truth of what your story is that you're telling, and if you relate and associate yourself with those people and put yourself in their shoes in the way that you can, the crying will come out of that. So you don't have to think about, I'm gonna cry to make people cry, because when you push for crying for yourself, the other people are not going to. They're gonna feel nothing. They're just gonna see you have produced tears without any kind of meaning. Have you watched television? Have you watched terrible shows? Most of them are. And you see actors crying, and then you're looking at them and you say, why don't I care that this person is crying? Because they're just doing it to show that they can cry. There's no build up. There's no belief in what they are saying in their story. There's no empathy. There's no meaning in the storytelling. I think the reason why I wanted to show this is because it just inspired me to try to be a better person. And I know I say that, and probably it's something that sounds mushy, or I don't know. It was just very inspiring to me, and it just confirmed again the importance of actors that the general public doesn't get. And I just wish that they would get. And I wish there would be more who would let and not judge the actors who do want to give of themselves to causes such as this one. Because we get so much more from watching someone like him. We understand the meaning of those lost lives and the importance of, like he said, those dreams to be continued on, of those children who didn't get a chance to live their dreams. I just thought it was very moving, and it was such a beautiful tribute. Thank God he didn't come like the politicians come out and say, oh, we're sending our prayers and our thoughts. Well, nobody can do anything with your prayers and your thoughts. I think you got to do more. You got to first admit and understand what it is that you care about. And do you care about the right thing? Or do you just care about yourself and your selfishness as a politician? Your prayers, and that's the easy way out. Oh, I'm sending you my prayers. Well, thank you so much for sending the prayers. That's a wonderful gesture, but it doesn't require any kind of it just doesn't require any kind of work on their part. I couldn't help myself. I had to share it because I don't know if everybody had seen it, and I was watching it and then I saw it again and I was just really moved. Kindness, empathy, humanity, those are the elements of our universal story called life. We're no better or no worse than each other. We're all flawed human beings with as many qualities as we have flaws, and all in between. Oh, I was so happy about the win of Johnny Depp, and it's related to acting and to Matthew McConaughey, because Johnny Depp I consider to be, again, a great actor. And when he was going through the trial with against his ex-wife Amber Heard, non-actress, I don't know why everybody calls her an actress, because she only got a job because of the relationship that she had with Johnny Depp. But when they were going through the trial and people were thinking that she was going to win because she's a woman, and in today's Me Too era where women are coming out and are for the first time being courageous enough to speak about sexual abuse and physical abuse and verbal abuse, where before they were afraid to, she came out and she took advantage of that. She thought that she was going to be part of, she was wanting to be relevant. So she came out to say that she was being abused by Johnny Depp in all those ways. And she's there to speak for women. And again, the arrogance on her and the mediocre acting that she portrayed on the stand. I knew from the very first day. I mean, the whole trial was about 6 weeks. I did a couple of episodes, I think, too. And I said, she's not going to win. She's not going to win because she's not telling the truth. You can just tell with actors, no matter how good of an actor you are, you will be given away if you're not telling the truth. So for people out there who are saying she's an actress, oh, she's crying on the stand, and the media, the national media, the mass media was seeing her and believing her. And I was like, are you people that crazy to believe what she's doing? Do you not see that there's no truth underneath her gestures and her behavior? Going back to what I was saying about Matthew McConaughey when he was making gestures, and I said he cannot be over the top because he's sustaining those gestures by the truth, by what he believes in and what he wants to do to participate in making this world a better place. Well, she didn't want to do that. She was just there because she wanted to get attention, because she knew she wasn't relevant without Johnny Depp. And when he decided he was going to leave her, she knew that her acting ability is none. But she couldn't admit those things to herself, which is the first thing that you have to do on your journey to become a great actor. So I knew from the very first time that she took the stand that she was lying and she was not going to be winning the trial. And nobody knew. Everybody, I mean, the YouTubers, they did know. There's some great people out there who were on the side of Johnny Depp, and they were sustaining him and they were with them from the beginning. So then when Johnny Depp came on the stand, he came on the stand that he accepted his humanity with the flaws. He said, I know what I've done wrong, but I haven't done wrong any of the things that she's allegedly saying that I did. I've done other ones wrong. Having problems with drug use, with alcohol. So he's admitting that he's a human being. You admit to the jurors who are the audience in that case that you are a human being. They relate to you because they are human beings. They're not a facade. They're not a one-dimensional character, or they're people who relate to problems because we all have addictions. We all have flaws that we have to deal with. We all have our life to try to become better and improve. So when he accepted that on the stand, I believed him because he was believable, not because he's a great actor and he was performing credible. You have to be a great human being to be credible and to be a great actor. It's the opposite. And people say, well, the performance was wonderful of Johnny Depp because he's a great star. No, that's not how it works. It doesn't work like that. So don't assume things about this business if you don't know. So I'm really happy that he won. I'm so happy that he won. And now she's, oh, she wanted to just be left alone and she wanted to move on with her life and just leave me alone, Johnny, leave me alone. I just want to move on with my life. And then Johnny wins, and now she's like making comments about, oh, this is a step backwards for the women who have been victims, and even the women who have come out and spoke the truth. They said, don't speak for us. You're not part of our truth because you're a liar. But she's still trying to stay relevant. Anyway, I'm done for today because now I feel like I'm doing the same thing that I was saying for great actors not to do, which is it's becoming about me. I know I have that. I am a little bit of a narcissist, but I'm accepting it. The problem is with people that don't accept. That's when the problem is. When you're accepting what you are with everything that you like and you don't like, then it's a step towards making yourself a little bit better. So I know I am a little bit of a narcissist. We all are. Nobody's perfect. That's it for today. Thank you so much. Hey, Stella podcast. Why did I smile? I put on the hey smile because I want to make sure that you like what I was doing. And no, hey, Stella podcast. Yes, this is going to be episode 46. Thank you, everyone.